There are moments in history when the world shifts quietly, so softly that almost no one notices what has been lost. January 7th, 1943, was one of those moments. New York City lay under a winter sky, its people preoccupied with wartime fears and rationed hopes. Inside the New Yorker hotel, behind the door of room 3327, an old man lay alone, thin, tired, uncelebrated. Yet his mind had once illuminated the world. Nikola Tesla, scientist, visionary, dreamer, exile, had taken his final breath. For more than half a century, Tesla had lived as if carrying lightning within him. Ideas poured from him faster than he could write them down. He spoke of limitless energy, machines that vibrated the planet, weapons that could end war, and engines that defied gravity itself. He was adored, ridiculed, underestimated, copied, doubted, and feared. But on that quiet morning in January, the lightning went out. When hotel staff discovered him, there was no crowd, no final invention glowing on a workbench, no reverent audience waiting for his next revelation. Just the stillness of an old man who had once believed he could change the world, and nearly did. Yet the real story began not with his death, but with what his death unleashed. Within hours, the US government was alerted. Agents from the Office of Alien Property arrived swiftly, too swiftly. They sealed Tesla's room, opened his safes, gathered his belongings, and removed more than 80 trunks filled with notes, diagrams, models, letters, calculations, and years of secret research. Almost everything he had created in the last decades of his life vanished overnight. To the public, a calm, ordinary statement was issued. Nothing dangerous had been found, nothing extraordinary, nothing that posed any threat to national security. Behind the scenes, no such assurance existed. For years, scientists and military officials had been aware of Tesla's claims. He had spoken of directed energy weapons powerful enough to knock planes out of the sky. He described resonance machines that could shake structures apart. He spoke of wireless global power, of engines without fuel, of tapping energy directly from the Earth itself. Most dismissed these ideas as exaggerations until the government began acting as if they were not exaggerations at all. The seized papers were handed to an MIT engineer, John G. Trump. He analyzed them and later declared that Tesla's work contained nothing usable or dangerous, a statement that raised more questions than it answered. Because he had not been given every document, several trunks were missing before his review even began. Others were quietly withheld, and to this day, no official explanation has been given for their disappearance. What had been inside them? What had Tesla been working on during the long, solitary years when the world had forgotten him? Why did the government seize his papers with such urgency? And why has so much of his late work remained hidden, redacted, or lost? The silence that filled room 3327 didn't mark the end of Tesla's story. It marked the beginning of a mystery, one involving governments, hidden archives, missing inventions, and technological ideas decades, perhaps centuries, ahead of their time. This is the story of those lost files, a story of ambition, secrecy, brilliance, and fear. A story of inventions the world might not have been ready for. A story still unfolding today. The mind that saw tomorrow. Before we can understand what was taken after Tesla died, we must understand the man whose ideas filled those trunks. Nikola Tesla did not think like other people. He did not invent like other scientists, and he did not imagine the future. He calculated it. From childhood, he spoke of visions. images that appeared to him without warning. Fully formed machines rotating in silence, lightning bolts arcing across fields of darkness, numbers arranging themselves into patterns no one else could see. While other inventors worked by trial and error, Tesla worked entirely in his mind. He built machines internally, ran them, tested them, and corrected them before touching a single piece of metal. His notebooks reveal a mind that leaped decades ahead of the world around him. While society was still burning coal, Tesla was describing global wireless power grids. While others were tinkering with early airplanes, he was designing propulsion systems with no wings. While physicists argued about electric fields, Tesla was predicting concepts that foreshadow modern plasma physics and wireless communication. Throughout his life, he lived between worlds, the one everyone else inhabited and the one he claimed to see coming. But genius has a price. Tesla's visions isolated him. His ideas frightened investors. His breakthroughs threatened powerful industries. His refusal to compromise turned rivals into enemies. Yet he could not stop imagining, could not stop creating, could not stop pushing toward something bigger, something he believed would change humanity forever. As he grew older and funding dried up, Tesla withdrew deeper into his private research. He stopped publishing, stopped presenting, stopped sharing. But he did not stop working. The inventions of his final years were not patented, not announced, not revealed. They existed only in the trunkloads of papers he guarded obsessively, papers he claimed contained the culmination of his life's work. Those papers vanished the moment he died. And so we must now ask, what had Tesla discovered? What had he built? What had he been warned not to reveal? And what ideas were powerful enough that the world still hasn't learned the answers? We will uncover that next. The inventions that terrified his backers. To understand why Tesla's final papers drew such immediate government attention, we must first examine the inventions he had revealed during his lifetime, the ones he spoke of openly, the ones he hinted at, and the ones he never fully explained. Because it is here, in this mixture of brilliance and secrecy, that the story of his missing work begins to take shape. Tesla's relationship with powerful patrons had always been fragile. Wealthy industrialists admired his genius when it served their interests, but they recoiled when his ideas threatened the foundations of their empires. And no invention strained that relationship more than his work on wireless power. At the turn of the century, electricity was becoming one of the world's most profitable commodities. Companies like General Electric, Westinghouse, and countless utilities were battling to control the infrastructure that would power the 20th century. Wires, transformers, and metered billing were the pillars of their business models. Then came Tesla, with a vision that undermined all of it. He believed electricity should be as free and universal as the air. He believed power could be transmitted wirelessly through the earth itself. He believed humanity could light entire cities, move machines, and illuminate the night sky without a single paid subscription or copper cable. And he believed he had found the method to do it. Wardenclyffe Tower was more than just an experiment to Tesla. It was the first step toward a new world, one in which energy flowed through the air, accessible to anyone, anywhere. Tesla imagined farms powered by the sky, ships crossing oceans without fuel, entire continents electrified without wires. But his financier, J.P. Morgan, saw something else. Morgan understood that if Tesla succeeded, the global energy market, worth billions even then, would evaporate. There would be no way to meter power, no way to charge customers, no leverage over nations desperate for fuel, no monopoly through infrastructure. Tesla had dreamed of liberating humanity. Morgan had dreamed of control. When Tesla proudly explained that Wardenclyffe would give the world free energy, there was a long silence. Then Morgan asked the question that would alter Tesla's life forever. If anyone can draw upon the power, where do we put the meter? Tesla's answer, honest, idealistic, and fatal, was simple. There is no meter. The funding stopped. The tower was abandoned. Tesla's financial future collapsed. And that was the moment Tesla truly became dangerous. Not because he was unstable, but because he was unstoppable. Without the constraints of investors, he pursued ideas far beyond the comfort of industry, government, and academia. Ideas that were not profitable. Ideas that were not controllable. Ideas that challenged the balance of power. Ideas that terrified the people who had once celebrated him. Among those ideas was the most controversial device he ever claimed to design. Something he believed would make war impossible. Something he believed would save humanity from its own violence. He called it Teleforce. Newspapers called it the Death Ray. Tesla described it as a weapon capable of sending a concentrated beam of particles across miles, striking targets with immense destructive force. He insisted it was not a weapon of mass destruction, but a shield, an impenetrable barrier that would prevent invasions, bombardments, and aerial attacks. Nations, he argued, would no longer dare attack one another. But the world was not ready for such a device. Or perhaps, more truthfully, it was far too ready. Governments took immediate interest. The Soviet Union made inquiries. British officials investigated. American officers requested demonstrations. Tesla entertained discussions, but withheld the core mechanism. He claimed no nation should possess it unless all nations did. To a military strategist, this was not idealism. It was obstruction. Tesla's refusal to hand over the death ray's secrets made him a liability, a man in possession of something powerful, uncontrollable, and unaligned, a man whose ideas could fall into the wrong hands, or perhaps already had. In the years that followed, Tesla's behavior grew more private. He spoke less about his work, but more cryptically about its implications. He hinted at breakthroughs in controlled resonance, wireless directional energy, and advanced propulsion. He claimed to have built a machine capable of shaking buildings apart. He described engines without fuel, aircraft without wings, and a world without war. Some dismissed these claims as exaggerations, but others believed the opposite, that Tesla was revealing only the tip of far deeper discoveries withheld from public view. His last decades were spent in near secrecy, working alone in hotel rooms, feeding pigeons during the day, and scribbling equations late into the night. The world believed he had become harmless, a relic of a bygone scientific age. But Tesla believed he was on the verge of something monumental, and he guarded his final work with fierce attention. Those trunks of papers that vanished after his death, those boxes sealed by federal agents, were rumored to contain the culmination of his life's efforts. Designs more advanced than anything he had built before. Technologies whose purpose he never fully explained. Theories that challenged the very structure of physics as it was understood. And mechanisms that governments feared might fall into enemy hands during the war. This fear, real or exaggerated, was enough to trigger a rapid, secretive government operation within hours of Tesla's death. But to understand why the United States acted with such urgency, we must examine the most dangerous invention Tesla ever claimed to create. Not the death ray, not wireless energy, not resonance machines, but something else. Something he believed could reshape the world. Something he hinted at only in fragments, and something that may have been among the papers that disappeared forever. The device that could shake the earth, among Tesla's most controversial claims, was one he rarely spoke of directly, yet hinted at repeatedly. A machine capable of producing vibrations so powerful, so precisely tuned, that it could affect structures, environments, and possibly even geological formations. To some, this sounded absurd. To others, it sounded like the invention he feared revealing more than any other. Tesla's fascination with resonance began early in his career. He understood that every object, every structure, every material had a natural frequency, a unique vibration at which it oscillated most efficiently. If you could discover that frequency and amplify it, even a small amount of energy could generate extremely powerful effects. This was not magic. This was physics. He once described the universe as a symphony of vibrations. Every atom, every planet, every star, everything hummed with its own rhythm. And if one had the right instrument, one could theoretically tap into those rhythms. Tesla believed he had created such an instrument. He called it a mechanical oscillator. The device itself was small, simple, and almost unimpressive to look at. A compact machine, powered by steam, capable of producing rapid, controlled vibrations. Tesla initially used it for experiments in electricity generation, but he soon discovered something extraordinary. When attached to metal beams or structures, the oscillator created vibrations that spread through the material, increasing in strength the longer they continued. He began experimenting on larger structures. At first, he attached the oscillator to a support beam in his New York laboratory. Within minutes, the entire building was shaking. Workers upstairs rushed out, convinced an earthquake had struck. As the vibrations intensified, Tesla realized he had gone too far. He smashed the device with a hammer to stop it. He later said that if he had let the machine run for just a few more minutes, the building might have collapsed. Years later, he made a far more audacious claim. He stated that with enough oscillators installed across Manhattan, perfectly synchronized to the frequency of the city's foundations, he could have reduced the island to rubble. To some, this was exaggeration. To others, it was theoretical possibility backed by alarming physics. But the most haunting part of Tesla's story came from a private demonstration he claimed to have performed for a group of friends. According to his own account, he attached the oscillator to a steel column in his lab and adjusted it until he struck the column's natural frequency. The vibrational pulse was so strong that windows shattered across the block. Police arrived. Tesla hid the device under a blanket and pretended nothing unusual had happened. He later joked that the police might have been relieved had they known how much worse it could have been. Most scientists dismissed these stories as embellishments, but resonance is no myth. Bridges collapse from harmonic oscillation. Glass shatters from the right pitch. Buildings sway from the synchronized footsteps of crowds. In theory, resonance harnessed correctly could create enormous destructive potential. For Tesla, this was not just theory. He claimed to have mastered it, which raises an important question. If Tesla had indeed developed a device capable of inducing destructive resonance, Where were the papers documenting it? Where were the detailed mathematical notes he was so devoted to? Where were the schematics he meticulously archived? They were not among the materials released to the public. They were not part of the papers that Dr. John G. Trump reviewed. They were not included in any declassified files. If they existed, they vanished. And they vanished at the exact moment federal agents seized his belongings. No evidence has ever surfaced confirming that Tesla built a full-scale earthquake machine. But what matters here is not whether the device worked. It's that the US government acted as if it could have. In the early 1940s, any technology that might alter the course of war, or worse, disrupt the balance of global power, demanded immediate investigation. The United States was at war. The stakes were immense. And here was an elderly inventor claiming to have discovered methods for destruction unlike anything conventional physics described. To a government immersed in global conflict, the risk of ignoring Tesla's claims was too great. His papers were seized not because they were known to be dangerous, but because they might have been. The oscillator was only one example of Tesla's peculiar genius for discovering phenomena others overlooked. And it was only one among several inventions he insisted could change the world forever. Yet of all his claimed breakthroughs, none fascinated him more than the idea that energy could be extracted directly from the earth, not mined, not generated, not purchased, captured, harnessed, made infinite. This was the dream Tesla chased to the end of his life, the dream that cost him his patrons, isolated him from the scientific establishment, and contributed to the secrecy that surrounded him in his final years. It was also the dream that may explain why the government acted with such urgency the moment he died. Because this dream involved a device so extraordinary, so improbable, and so potentially world-altering that even Tesla's closest contemporaries could not understand it. He believed he had found a way to tap into the electrical charge of the planet itself, and he believed it could power the world, the machine that pulled power from the earth. Tesla's ambition was never to invent machines for profit or weapons for destruction. His true obsession, the vision that had haunted him since his youth, was the idea that energy itself could be unlocked, not produced. That power need not be generated through burning fuels or harnessed through dams and turbines. That electricity existed in the world already, pulsing through the earth, the atmosphere, the very air around us. He believed the planet itself was a storehouse of limitless energy. To Tesla, the Earth was not a passive mass of rock. It was an enormous electrical conductor with a charge that could be tapped. He saw the planet as a living dynamo, vibrating with natural frequencies and filled with immense potential. And unlike nearly every other scientist of his time, he believed he had discovered a method to extract that energy directly. Many dismissed this idea. A few feared it. But Tesla insisted it was possible and that he had done it. He described experiments in which he grounded coils deep into the earth and observed currents far greater than he expected. He claimed he was not simply transmitting power, but receiving it. He said the Earth itself completed the circuit. In his notebooks, he wrote about electrical waves traveling through the planet, and how the right kind of transmitter could both send and receive these waves with extraordinary amplification. To most engineers, this sounded like fantasy. To Tesla, it was a blueprint for the future. He believed that with the right device, a device he said he had nearly completed, any person, anywhere, could access the Earth's electrical reservoir. A farmer in a remote village, a ship in the middle of the ocean, a child in a desert with no infrastructure. Energy, he believed, should be a birthright, not a commodity. But this vision clashed with the most powerful industrial forces of the age. Oil magnates, utility companies, and financiers built their empires on the premise that energy would always be scarce, always purchased, always controlled. A world where energy flowed freely through the earth like water or air was not progress to them. It was catastrophe. Tesla's machine threatened the foundation of the global economy, and in the final years of his life, he worked on it in near secrecy. No investors, no partners, no laboratories, just the dim room of a hotel, stacks of papers, and a mind still reaching for something extraordinary. He insisted, even into his 80s, that he was close to mastering the method. He hinted that he had discovered a new principle of electrical behavior, one not accepted by conventional physics. He said that if his tower at Wardenclyffe had been completed, the world would already be living in a different era. And then, without warning, he was gone. And with him, the last pieces of that secret vanished, or perhaps not vanished at all. Perhaps they were taken, examined, and hidden. But to understand the magnitude of what Tesla believed he had achieved, and why the government moved so quickly after his death, we must now cross a threshold in this story, the moment where Tesla's documented research ends and his most controversial claims begin. And before we step into that part of Tesla's mind, into the inventions that even today feel impossible, dangerous, or prophetic, there's one thing you should know. What comes next involves ideas that remain debated, denied, and shrouded in mystery. Ideas that were either genius ahead of its time or something far more complicated. Ideas that may explain why some of Tesla's trunks were never seen again. If you're immersed in this story and want to see more deep investigations into hidden scientific history, forgotten geniuses, and suppressed discoveries, now is the perfect moment to support this channel. A like helps the video reach more people. A comment helps the algorithm understand what stories matter to you, and subscribing ensures you never miss the next investigation. The vision of flight without wings. In the final decades of his life, Tesla spoke with unusual confidence about a new kind of machine, one that did not rely on propellers, combustion, or aerodynamic lift. It was not an airplane, not a helicopter, not a glider. It was something altogether different. He described it as a craft that moved silently, efficiently, and without the limitations of traditional physics as understood in his time. A craft powered not by fuel, but by electrical principles he believed he had finally mastered. He claimed that this machine would be capable of vertical takeoff and landing, hovering in place, and moving with effortless precision in any direction. The idea sounded impossible, yet Tesla spoke of it as if it were inevitable. He believed flight should not depend on the friction and violence of burning engines. He believed propulsion should come from the manipulation of forces far more fundamental. Forces that, if understood correctly, would render fuel obsolete. Tesla hinted repeatedly that he had discovered methods of controlling the behavior of charged particles in such a way that they could produce lift, pure, clean, silent lift, without wings or spinning blades. He referred to the craft as a flying machine, but refused to describe it in conventional engineering terms. Instead, he spoke of electrostatic force, field interactions, and space displacement. He suggested that once this principle was understood, aircraft design would be revolutionized. He said the skies would belong to machines that glided through the air with as little resistance as light passing through space. Many laughed, others wondered, and a few took him very seriously. Tesla had always been ahead of the world. He was exploring alternating current long before the world understood it. He predicted wireless communication decades before radio became widespread. He envisioned radar before radar existed. He formulated ideas that foreshadowed modern robotics, sensors, remote control, and even aspects of modern plasma physics. Was it possible he had also glimpsed the future of flight? If he had, there is little surviving documentation. No complete schematics, no detailed blueprints, only fragments in notebooks, scattered comments in interviews, and cryptic statements in his private journals. But what makes this idea compelling is the timing. In the late 1930s, Tesla suddenly sought to secure patents related to propulsion. He spoke of offering his new invention to the US government as a defensive tool, a craft capable of tremendous maneuverability and unprecedented range. He described a vehicle that could move without dragging through the air, a vehicle immune to many of the limitations that plagued conventional aircraft, a vehicle that manipulated the very medium of space around it. Some modern researchers speculate Tesla was describing what we today would call an electrogravitic craft, a technology often associated with speculative aerospace concepts. Others believe he was exploring ion propulsion, a method that would not become practical until decades later. Still others argue he was reaching for ideas so far ahead of his era that the supporting physics simply did not exist to validate them. Whatever the truth, Tesla insisted he had reached critical insights that would allow flight without wings, and he said, with unusual intensity, that this was the invention he most wished to see realized. This is where the story becomes even more mysterious. After Tesla's death, the US government catalogued his belongings carefully, at least according to the official record. But nowhere in the surviving documents do we find a detailed description of the propulsion device he believed would change aviation forever. What happened to it? Did it exist only in Tesla's imagination? Was it incomplete? Was it hidden? Or was it removed, classified and sealed away? The absence of evidence is itself a kind of evidence. Every scientist, every inventor leaves a trail, notes, drafts, diagrams, revisions. Tesla left thousands of pages on lesser ideas. Yet on this topic, the trail goes cold, which is precisely what fuels the next question in this story. What else in Tesla's files was deemed too sensitive to release? Because the missing pieces do not end with propulsion. They extend into Tesla's most controversial work of all, a device he believed could produce directed beams of extraordinary energy, powerful enough to defend nations, end wars, and change the future of global conflict forever. He said it was real. He said he built it. And he said the world was not ready for it. To understand the legend and the loss of Tesla's most infamous invention, we now turn to the machine that made governments nervous, militaries alert, and intelligence agencies very interested in the papers he left behind. The weapon, he insisted, would end all wars. Among all of Tesla's later claims, none stirred more controversy, curiosity, and fear than the device he called Teleforce. Newspapers labeled it the Death Ray, a name Tesla despised for its sensationalism. He insisted it was not a weapon of aggression, but a guardian, something that would make war obsolete by making invasion impossible. Tesla described teleforce not as a beam of light or heat, but as a stream of charged particles accelerated to extraordinary energies. Unlike conventional weapons, it did not rely on explosive materials or chemical reactions. It used electricity, pure, directed electricity. He claimed the device could project a concentrated beam across miles, striking targets with such precision and force that any aircraft, any vehicle, any object could be destroyed instantly. He said the beam would travel so fast that nothing could outrun it, nothing could deflect it, nothing could survive it. But Tesla insisted he had no interest in building instruments of conquest. What he proposed instead was a defensive network, a perimeter shield around nations, a barrier of energy so effective that no foreign military would risk crossing it. He believed this invention could save millions of lives. He believed it could end war entirely. He believed that if every nation had access to it, no nation would ever attack another again. But the world was not operating on Tesla's idealistic terms. It was 1934. The Great Depression lingered. Tensions in Europe were growing. Governments were not searching for peace. They were preparing for conflict. Tesla approached several nations with his proposal. The United States, the United Kingdom, and the Soviet Union each expressed interest, some more openly than others. Tesla requested limited funds to build a prototype, but he refused to reveal the heart of the device without guarantees that it would be used for defense, not aggression. This refusal raised suspicion. To military officials, Tesla's secrecy was not reassuring. A man in possession of a revolutionary weapon who refused to share its details was not a collaborator. He was a potential threat. Yet Tesla insisted on caution. He said the world was not ready to wield such power. He argued that if any one nation controlled the technology, it would destabilize the global balance. He wanted transparency, cooperation, a new world order built on mutual safety. He received none of it. Through the late 1930s, Tesla continued refining his theory. He spoke with journalists, hinting at breakthroughs. He wrote letters describing new configurations, but he never demonstrated the device publicly. Whether this was because he lacked resources or because he intentionally withheld the final components remains unclear. What is clear is that he believed he had solved the technical issues. He believed the device worked, and he believed the world was not prepared to understand it. This raises a critical question. If Tesla truly built or nearly built such a device, where are the plans? They do not appear in the publicly released FBI files. They do not appear in the documents reviewed by Dr. John G. Trump. They do not appear in museum archives or engineering collections. If any papers describing the full mechanism existed, they vanished. Some believe Tesla never wrote them down. Others think he hid them deliberately. And some argue they were seized, examined, and classified by agencies that understood the danger far better than the public ever could. But there is another possibility, a possibility more subtle, more revealing, and more disturbing. Tesla's entire life had been marked by a pattern. He produced ideas so far ahead of the world that the world struggled to interpret them. They were dismissed as fantasy only until someone else rediscovered them decades later. Wireless communication, remote control, radio waves, fluorescent lighting, turbine designs, high-frequency generators, the foundations of modern radar. all ideas Tesla articulated long before they became reality. So when he claimed to have discovered a new form of directed energy, to have designed a machine capable of projecting it with unprecedented force, was that truly more unbelievable than the inventions he had already proven? The most unsettling part of Tesla's story is not that he might have built such a device. It is that if he did, the world might never know. And yet, this weapon was not the only technology he spoke of with intense conviction. He described another principle, one even more mysterious, more ambitious, and more transformative. A concept not of destruction, but of control. Control over forces humanity barely understood in Tesla's lifetime. This was the idea he believed could unlock not just new machines, but new laws of physics. An idea that could change transportation, engineering, and energy forever. It was the principle that tied together so many of Tesla's late experiments: resonance, electrical fields, propulsion, atmospheric charge. His thinking had begun to converge toward a single theme: the manipulation of space, force, and motion through electricity. To explore the next stage of Tesla's lost work, we must turn to the invention he hinted at, but never fully explained. An idea that lies between science and speculation, between genius and impossibility. It is here that the story of his missing papers becomes most unsettling. The principle he believed could rewrite physics. As Tesla aged, his thinking grew broader, more ambitious, and increasingly abstract. He was no longer content with motors, generators, and transmission systems. His mind shifted toward deeper questions, questions about the fundamental nature of space, force, energy, and how they interacted. Throughout his later writings, he referred repeatedly to a new principle that could transform every field of engineering. He spoke of it as if it were a key, one capable of unlocking technologies the world had never seen. But Tesla never gave this principle a formal name. He simply described its effects. According to Tesla, the universe was not governed merely by mechanical motion or electromagnetic waves as understood by his contemporaries. He believed space itself was filled with subtle forces and materials, interconnected, vibrant, and capable of transmitting energy in ways conventional physics did not yet recognize. To Tesla, this medium was not empty. It was alive with potential. He believed that the behavior of electrical fields within this medium could create new types of movement, new reactions, and new modes of interaction with matter. He hinted that the right configuration of fields could change how objects experienced inertia, lift, resistance, and even gravity. He spoke of something he called dynamic electrostatic force, a phrase that puzzled many of the physicists who tried to interpret it. The concept seemed to blend elements of capacitance, atmospheric ionization, field interaction, and resonance. He described it not as a push or pull in the traditional sense, but as a method of altering the very environment through which objects moved. In simpler terms, Tesla believed he had discovered a way to manipulate the space around an object to facilitate motion. He hinted that this principle could allow for propulsion without fuel. He suggested that it could eliminate drag. He implied that it could create lift without aerodynamics. He theorized that it could produce acceleration without conventional engines. To many, these ideas sounded impossible. To Tesla, they were simply the next step in electrical engineering. This principle, he claimed, was the missing foundation for his flying machine. He suggested that once engineers understood the relationship between electrical fields and the natural medium of space, they would no longer design aircraft. They would design field structures. He said that future vehicles would be shaped not by wings or rotors, but by the distribution of energy around them. He said that the skies would be filled with machines that moved silently, smoothly, and elegantly, guided by principles the world had not yet discovered, and he believed he had already found those principles. The timing of these claims is not accidental. In the last decade of his life, Tesla's behavior shifted noticeably. He became increasingly protective of his final research. He stopped disclosing even broad outlines of his work. Visitors noticed that he kept thick stacks of notes close to him, sometimes sleeping with them beside his bed. He guarded his papers with an intensity that suggested he believed they were dangerous, or that someone else believed they were. This is why his final years are so important. Tesla did not fade quietly. He did not retire. He did not stop working. On the contrary, he seemed more convinced than ever that he was on the verge of something monumental. And this is what makes the disappearance of his papers so significant. Among the documents seized by the government were hundreds of pages of calculations, sketches, and theoretical predictions related to electrical fields, resonance, and wave behavior. Some of these papers were eventually released, many were not. But what disturbed researchers most was not what was present, it was what was missing. Entire topics Tesla spoke passionately about: advanced propulsion, field manipulation, atmospheric conductivity, and the mysterious principle he believed could rewrite engineering, appear nowhere in the surviving files. Not one detailed set of equations, not one complete diagram, not one full description of the mechanism he claimed to have designed. The absence is deliberate. Whether Tesla hid these papers himself, whether they were taken before the official seizure, or whether they exist in classified archives, remains unknown. But the pattern is undeniable. The deeper Tesla's ideas went into uncharted territory, the less of his work survives. And that brings us to the most difficult and compelling question in this story. What if Tesla was right? What if he did discover a principle that, if understood, could transform transportation, energy, and technology on a global scale? And if he did, what would powerful institutions of his time have done with that knowledge? Which leads us directly to another part of Tesla's lost work, one that has fueled speculation for decades. It concerns the trunkloads of notebooks the government admitted to seizing but never released, the items marked as missing, and the strange inconsistencies in the official record. It concerns the disappearance of Tesla's papers, not only what was taken, but what was never returned. The Vanishing Trunks. In the immediate aftermath of Tesla's death, the US government moved with remarkable speed. Hotel staff barely had time to inform the authorities before agents arrived. Tesla's room was searched, sealed, and emptied. His safes were opened. His locked drawers were inspected. His notebooks, stacked in piles that only he understood, were removed and catalogued. The official line, repeated over the years, is that all of Tesla's belongings were seized by the Office of Alien Property, examined by government experts, and then eventually returned to his family. But this explanation collapses under scrutiny. There were more than 80 steamer trunks filled with documents, prototypes, and instruments gathered from Tesla's hotels, storage rooms, and previous residences. Tesla had moved often, hoarding everything he created, rarely allowing anyone to touch or examine his material. When the government intervened, These trunks were gathered into a single archive. Numbers were assigned, lists were made, and an official inventory was recorded. Only later did researchers discover something extraordinary. The numbers do not add up. In the first inventory, the number of trunks recorded exceeded the number eventually returned to Tesla's relatives. Some items were listed twice, others were grouped without explanation, and several trunks, which were noted to contain scientific papers, were marked simply as missing. No one has ever accounted for them. This is where the inconsistencies become impossible to ignore. If the government truly found nothing of practical value, why were trunks missing? Why were records incomplete? Why did certain items appear in early inventories, but not in later ones? And why, after decades, do the official lists remain partially redacted? What adds to the mystery is the involvement of several government agencies. The Office of Alien Property took the lead, but the FBI monitored the situation closely. The military showed interest, particularly in Tesla's claims regarding directed energy, and several documents released years later revealed communication between agencies that had not been disclosed at the time. The most striking detail is buried in a memo written shortly after Tesla's death. It states, in essence, that Tesla's work was largely theoretical, except for certain technical papers that were of potential value to national defense. Those papers were never identified, nor were they among the items returned. The pattern becomes unmistakable. The more dangerous or advanced the idea Tesla described during his lifetime, the less likely it is to appear in the surviving files. There is another layer to this mystery. Tesla's family claimed that they received trunks containing personal items, letters, clothing, and some notebooks, but not the complete archive. They insisted that many of the inventor's most sensitive papers were withheld permanently. Some researchers argue that Tesla, always secretive, may have hidden his most important discoveries elsewhere. But there is no record of a second storage location. No additional trunk has ever surfaced. No private collection has revealed missing pages, which leaves one explanation. The trunks existed. They were seized, and they disappeared into places where the public would never see them again. If this were merely an administrative mistake, that would be one thing, but the context matters. Tesla died during a global war. His writings included descriptions of powerful technologies, some defensive, some destructive, many misunderstood. His claims had drawn attention from foreign governments. His inventions had the potential to reshape military strategy. To intelligence agencies of that era, the risk was clear. If Tesla's work could be used by enemies, it had to be secured. If it contained breakthroughs, they had to be classified. And if it held ideas too dangerous for public knowledge, it had to be hidden. Missing trunks fit perfectly within this framework. But the question that lingers is not simply where the trunks went. It is why they were taken. What was inside them that warranted secrecy? What concepts, diagrams, or prototypes did they contain that made them disappear completely from public record? And why do the gaps in Tesla's surviving papers align so precisely with the inventions he valued most? Wireless energy, resonance, propulsion, and directed force. This is the heart of the mystery. Tesla's genius was not in perfecting known technologies. It was in reaching for ideas the world had no language for yet. When he failed, the world called him eccentric. When he succeeded, the world called him dangerous. And in the decades before his death, Tesla believed he was closer to his greatest breakthroughs than ever before. Yet those breakthroughs are nowhere in the papers that remain, which leads to a more uncomfortable possibility. Tesla may have held knowledge that governments feared would destabilize the world if released. To understand this possibility, we must examine what was happening in the world at the time of his death, and why, in that moment, Tesla's ideas became more valuable and more threatening than ever before. The urgency, the report, and the global race. In 1943, the world was deep in the chaos of war. Nations were scrambling for advantage, desperate for technologies that could shift the balance of power. Radar was in infancy. Nuclear research was advancing in secret. The skies were filling with bombers, the seas with submarines, and governments with fear. This was the atmosphere into which Nikola Tesla died. No timing could have been worse or more consequential. Tesla was not simply an old inventor with fading relevance. He was a man who had publicly claimed for years that he possessed designs for weapons powerful enough to reshape military strategy. Machines capable of shooting down aircraft with directed energy. Oscillators that could shake buildings to their foundation. Flying machines with unprecedented maneuverability. And new methods of transmitting power that could eliminate the dependency on fuel entirely. To the United States government, the risk was obvious. If Tesla's claims contained even a degree of truth, and if those ideas fell into the hands of hostile nations, the consequences could be catastrophic. In an era where intelligence agencies believed even rumors of technological breakthroughs could change the trajectory of war, Tesla's papers were not curiosities. They were assets. This is why agents moved within hours of his death. This is why his belongings were seized before his relatives were even notified. This is why secrecy cloaked every part of the operation. The urgency was not symbolic. It was strategic. The government believed Tesla might have invented something dangerous, and in wartime, might have was more than enough. Yet despite the speed and seriousness of the seizure, the official explanation later offered to the public was strangely dismissive. Dr. John G. Trump, the MIT engineer assigned to evaluate Tesla's papers, issued a summary that contradicted the government's own behavior. His report stated that Tesla's writings were speculative and philosophical, lacking practical application. It was a statement that relieved concerns, silenced speculation, and gave the appearance of closure. But the more carefully one examines the report, the more cracks appear. For one, Trump reviewed the papers in only a matter of days, an impossibly short time to evaluate decades of complex, theoretical work. Second, the report was written for public consumption, not internal military analysis. And third, records show that Trump did not even have access to every trunk. Some materials were withheld, classified, or missing before he arrived. What exactly did he evaluate, and what did he not? His sanitized conclusion raises more questions than it answers. If Tesla's work had no value, why were so many government agencies involved? Why were inventories redacted? Why were some trunks never returned? Why was the timing so urgent? Why did multiple nations express interest in Tesla's final work immediately after his death? Because the United States was not the only country watching. Even before Tesla died, foreign governments understood his potential. The Soviet Union had sent a representative to speak with him in the 1930s. Japanese interest had been documented. German intelligence reportedly monitored his publications. British officials sought clarifications about his directed energy theories. The death of a man who had claimed to possess unprecedented technology didn't go unnoticed by world powers. When word reached them that Tesla's files had been seized, they reacted swiftly. Diplomats made formal requests. Scientists made inquiries. Intelligence agencies filed reports. The United States now possessed something other nations wanted, something they feared the US would exploit first, something they believed might tilt the future in one nation's favor. Internally, American officials debated the significance of what they had taken. Some believed Tesla's ideas bordered on fantasy. Others believed the opposite, that he had glimpsed principles far beyond current understanding, principles the US must secure before enemies caught up. And while some argued that Tesla exaggerated his accomplishments, others pointed to his history: the radio, alternating current, robotics, wireless communication, ideas the world had doubted until he proved them. His track record, even if mixed, was too remarkable to ignore. Multiple agencies, including the FBI, the military, and scientific advisors, quietly sifted through the files to determine what could be weaponized, what could be understood, and what needed to be hidden. Foreign intelligence reports declassified decades later reveal something even more striking. Other nations fully expected that Tesla's ideas, if real, would play a role in the post-war world. They believed the United States might use his work to develop new forms of defense, new weapons, or entirely new industries. There are documents in Soviet archives referencing concern that the US might gain an advantage from Tesla's final research. British intelligence noted uncertainty regarding the nature of the late Dr. Tesla's unpublished work, and American agencies wrote cautiously about the potential strategic value of his theories. To put it plainly, no matter what the official line said, no one treated Tesla's work as harmless, and so a quiet international race began, not to build Tesla's inventions, but to understand what he had left behind. The US held the trunks, other nations sought access, and the gaps in the record grew more suspicious. The crucial question is not whether Tesla had discovered working prototypes. The question is why multiple governments believed it was necessary to evaluate, secure, or pursue his work at all. There is no international competition for fantasies, only for possibilities. Tesla's ideas, even when incomplete, were possibilities. Possibilities with strategic value. Possibilities worth hiding. Possibilities worth taking. And somewhere within those possibilities lie the answers to the most persistent mystery of all: why so much of Tesla's final work vanished. To get closer to that answer, we must now examine not just what the world knew Tesla created, but what he claimed he was preparing to reveal. Ideas that, if real, could still be hidden in archives today. What may still be hidden? The story of Tesla's lost inventions is not simply a tale about what vanished in 1943. It is also a story about what has never surfaced since. 8 decades have passed, yet the core mysteries remain exactly where they began: unanswered, unresolved, and untouched. The silence around certain parts of Tesla's work is not accidental. It is patterned, persistent, and deliberate. To understand what may still be hidden, we must return to the themes that defined Tesla's final decades: wireless energy, advanced propulsion, directed force, and the manipulation of electrical fields in ways far beyond the science of his era. These are precisely the topics missing from the surviving files. Not partially missing, completely missing. The absence is too perfect to be coincidence. Researchers who studied the surviving documents found thousands of pages of experiments with coils, transformers, and oscillators. There are detailed notes on high-frequency currents, mechanical resonance, lighting systems, and electrical transmission. But when it comes to the inventions Tesla valued most, the inventions he spoke of most passionately, the inventions he hinted were his greatest achievements, those records simply are not there. There are no finished schematics for the flying machine he claimed to have solved. No complete calculations for the defensive beam he believed could end war. No diagrams detailing his atmospheric power extraction system. No records of the new electrical principle he insisted would change engineering forever. Instead, there are gaps, precise, intentional gaps. And in those gaps lie the possibilities that have kept Tesla's final years shrouded in speculation. One possibility is that Tesla never fully wrote down these technologies. He may have carried the crucial components in his mind, protecting them from misuse. But this explanation collapses when one considers Tesla's lifelong obsession with documenting everything. He wrote constantly. He filled notebooks compulsively. He refined designs tirelessly on paper before touching a single piece of machinery. For a man who recorded even minor experiments in meticulous detail, the total absence of his most important work is profoundly unusual. Another possibility is that the documents existed, but were stolen before the government arrived. Tesla had visitors, acquaintances, occasional assistants. His hotels were not always secure. There were individuals, both foreign and domestic, who understood his value. But there is no record of a break-in, no witness testimony, no missing time that aligns with such a theft. And the speed with which authorities responded leaves little window for such an event. A more troubling possibility is that the missing papers were never lost. They were removed. The US government acknowledged seizing Tesla's papers. They admitted examining them. They admitted classifying some. But they never explained which ones. And when the estate received the remaining materials, only a portion of the original archive returned. Some items were labeled restricted. Others, confidential. Some simply not included. There are trunks whose recorded contents have never been revealed. There are lists with redacted entries. There are memos hinting at papers of defense significance, yet none appear in the released materials. And the inconsistencies grow when comparing inventories. Documents listed in earlier records do not appear in later ones, and vice versa. This pattern matches the fate of sensitive scientific work during wartime. Items deemed harmless are returned. Items deemed valuable or dangerous vanish into controlled archives. This happened with radar research, with nuclear research, with communications research. It is entirely plausible it happened with Tesla. But there is one more possibility, one that lies between the lines of history, hinted at, but unconfirmed. It is the possibility that Tesla's final work intersected with ideas that were simply too advanced for the world of the 1940s to process. Ideas that would have been dismissed publicly, misunderstood academically, yet viewed privately as either promising or threatening. Ideas like extracting energy directly from the environment, propulsion without conventional engines, field manipulation as a means of motion, transmission of force across distance without loss, the integration of electrical and mechanical resonance, directed particle beams, control over atmospheric conductivity. Individually, these ideas are speculative. Together, they form a coherent thread, one pointing to a unified vision of how energy, motion, and space might interact. Tesla hinted repeatedly that he had discovered connections between these phenomena. He suggested that his final work represented a synthesis of principles he had pursued for decades. If such a synthesis existed, it would have been unlike any engineering framework of the time. It would have threatened entire industries, challenged established physics, and opened pathways to machines the world was not prepared to understand or control. For governments, such knowledge is not discarded. It is stored, not to suppress progress, but to prevent chaos, not to hide truth, but to contain possibility, not to silence Tesla, but to ensure that only those who could handle such ideas ever saw them. There are archives in the United States, scientific, military, and intelligence, that retain classified materials from the early 20th century. There are vaults of documents never made public. There are inventions and theories sealed away because they intersect with national security. Tesla's missing work may lie in one of them. Or perhaps the papers exist in fragments, scattered across institutions, misfiled or mislabeled, recognized only by those who understand their meaning. In such a scenario, Tesla's greatest work could be hiding in plain sight, buried among technical papers that appear ordinary to anyone without his insight. And there is the final possibility that Tesla's ideas were understood, tested, and explored in secret. Not because they were ready for the world, but because they were not. If true, what remains hidden is not simply his inventions, but their consequences. As we near the end of this investigation, the question becomes not just what Tesla created, but why certain ideas vanished while others survived. Why some inventions were dismissed publicly, but examined privately. Why the man who electrified the world died alone, while his most extraordinary ideas disappeared into silence. To answer that, we must now confront the final mystery in this story, what Tesla believed his inventions meant for the future, and why the world may still not be ready for them. Tesla lived in an era that could not keep pace with his imagination. He saw a future where energy flowed freely through the air, where machines moved without fuel, where force could be shaped and directed with precision, where the sky was filled with silent craft, and where war itself collapsed under the weight of defensive technology too powerful to challenge. To many, these visions were dreams. To him, they were blueprints, and that may be the reason so much of his work vanished. Maybe humanity wasn't ready. Maybe governments weren't prepared to release ideas that could destabilize economies, upend energy systems, or redefine the nature of conflict. Maybe Tesla stood too close to the edge of what was possible, too far ahead for his own time, yet too dangerous to ignore. His death closed the door on one of the brightest minds in history. But the disappearance of his papers opened another door entirely, one filled with unanswered questions, missing trunks, and inventions the world still cannot fully explain. What if Tesla was right about even a single one of his final ideas? What if something he discovered still sleeps in a classified archive? What if the future he saw is still waiting for us to catch up? And what if the world has only glimpsed a fraction of what he truly left behind? To know more, to follow the next investigation, to uncover the next forgotten genius and the next hidden chapter of scientific history, do not forget to subscribe and in the next investigation, we uncover the scientist who may have solved one of Tesla's unfinished experiments.